Hello, so welcome to this video for COMP3218 Game Design and Development at University of Southampton. My name's Dave Millard, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I'm here with...
Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Rimington. I'm a research fellow at the University of Southampton, and I am a demonstrator on the course and here to help out with marking.
Thanks, Bob. We asked the students to prepare a game that we're going to have a look at. Bob, do you want to say a little bit about the brief we gave them?
Absolutely. These students have been tasked with developing a short game prototype which demonstrates a core dynamic. We specifically asked them to demonstrate that core dynamic and its relevant mechanics in a tutorial level. That helps to teach the players.
So, without further ado, let's get on and have a look at our first game. Okay, so our first game is called Monsters Must Die. Okay, all right, so I've got a nice title screen. I've got easy mode. They obviously are aware that I was going to be playing this. So that's good. Settings. Oh, go handy.
There you go. That's just what you need.
That's just what we need. But I think that's okay. Like it sort of where it is, we can hear that there's a music track. So let's.
I like the little stars on the. I like the stars on the markers. I think that's rather sweet.
Yes. Select difficulty. These are the levels, I'm guessing. So number one. Tutorial. Hold down the middle mouse button and drag the mouse to move the perspective. Hit confirm, or do I hit that arrow, do you think?
I guess arrow? Because confirm will be for all of it. Okay.
Oh dear. I made a terrible mistake. I hit
confirm. Oh no, confirm takes you straight into playing.
It did. All right. Well, we'll have a look at it again in a minute. Right, the Frost Elves are threatened by an Orc army. So this isn't our narrative coursework, but they've already done some narrative bits. So we have to lead the Frost Elves in defending their homeland. That's Aria. All drums of the Orcs have sounded. They're iron hooves. Anyway.
I mean, they might. They're fantasy animals. I'm sure they can have a hoof.
That's the Forced Elves.
Forced Elves.
This is another elf. So, okay. So there's a few things to note here. So I quite like the little narrative setup, and the amount of text is quite good.
Yes.
It looks to me like I'm guessing this is going to be like a JRPG style combat game.
Yeah.
Kind of where we're going. I noticed the art styles are not quite consistent though. So that's
I spotted that one too. I'm interested to see how the combat etc. works in this because, as you say, it could be set up to be sort of JRPG, kind of turn-based vibes potentially. But as you say, there's a few different kinds of art styles here. Although I like that there's an avatar for the in the right hand side for the
it's set up quite nicely.
Narrative beats. Yeah.
So we're going to use the cover of the forest to set traps and ambushes, and my sword and magic be the most powerful weapons. Okay. Itching to get into it at this point. I can also click to make the text go, so that's always very good.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than sitting there while it types out slower
fully
than
loads
you read.
every time. Yeah.
Right. Okay. We get it. We're going to fight. Right. So
we're going to fight some orcs.
So I can scroll around using the middle button.
Cool.
Monsters spawn.
Got money's ticking up automatically. So, Hero's got a health bar. So pause the game. Okay. What does back do? Does it take you straight back to menu?
It does. Yes.
It does. Yep.
Okay. Well, that's right because I can see the tutorial. Right. Here we go. So I drag the mouse button. Rolling the mouse button can zoom in and out. Okay. Monsters will appear from the black hole to attack your hero, protect your hero. Clicking on the green plot will bring up the defense. Oh, it's tower defense. Click on the defense tower that needs to be built to construct it on the selected plot. Allows you to view the attack range of the tower. Okay. All right. So I've got to go through the bits to start with. So, I mean, we'll talk about the tutorial stuff in a minute, but it's interesting that if they'd integrated it with the game, right,
Mm.
that I wouldn't have been confused, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a little bit of an info dump at the beginning, but
Mm.
at least I kind of know what to expect now. Right, so I think I
Yes.
should be able to. Ah, I also don't have to even
Yeah,
hit that button.
and you can run through. That's quite nice that you can run through the dialogue there.
Let's get some towers up, shall we? So an
Okay. Yeah, you're going to
archer,
need some players.
period dig. Okay, I don't. Okay,
You've got a, I guess, so you've got your money, which is slowly ticking up.
so
So I think
let's
you're
have a
going to need
couple of
some of each. Yeah.
archers, and then. So what do you think? I get a miner? I don't
I think you should
producer.
get you should probably get some produce.
Oh, oh, one.
If my reading is right, they will produce
Ah, I can sell and upgrade.
ho ho. Your
Let's put
producers
some.
might get the resources that you're going to need to build more archers, I guess.
Blimey, oh, I see. Oh, and there's the path.
Ah, okay, so they're gonna slowly get to you. Cool.
I hadn't got the path either.
Me
Well,
neither. That makes sense now, though.
Let's get some archers going. Very well here. So again, just a quick comment. I am straight into this, right? It's not like they've given me a single thing. Have I run out of money for archers or something?
Yeah, you have. This is so that's why I think you
well.
need miners to slowly bring up your resources, I guess. Yeah,
Okay,
it's not.
So if I do some producers over here, maybe. Producer.
Okay, so your hero does do a fair bit of damage, but they do now suffer. Mm.
So okay, so I'm immediately thinking to myself, So there's a couple of things, right? So first of all, I'm straight into it. Whereas I think would have been nice to be sort of gradually introduced to the game, perhaps.
Yeah, I do think that in this case, an integrated tutorial of a smaller map with a single enemy coming one at a time to start you off, and that kind of step-by-step guidance would have been very intuitive quite quickly.
Yes.
So this is kind of an integrated tutorial I think would have really helped with sort of gameplay smoothness as well, just general comfort.
I also think that it feels a bit weird because my archers aren't actually that effective, and I am relying on my hero. I can upgrade.
Your hero is definitely going to die very soon, though, I must say.
Oh, okay. So they're taking damage.
I did also notice, though, that when you went back...
Very good. Yeah.
I did notice that when you went back to the main selection screen, that it had automatically unticked easy mode. So you're playing it on medium mode, I guess.
Should we start? We've already made some comments, but should we start going? Now I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm going to have a go at playing this, and should we go through the criteria?
Yeah, you have a go. You have a go at the plan. We can go through some criteria here. So the first thing we're going for is presentation, which is the graphics, audio, and UI. The sound choice, I think, is very appropriate for this kind of defensive game, combat style game. I think it's a nice fantasy dramatic sound, and I can hear that the archers make noises as well, little whoops of their arrows, which is pleasant.
Yeah, no, and I think it's very clear. The styles, it's a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah,
but there are some things I really like. So, for example, this little thing that pops up, this zooms in and out, and that's really quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
The writing's all clear. The tooltips effectively. So all of that stuff's really good. So I think in general the sound and the graphics and the information design is pretty good. So I can clearly see all of the health bars for the orcs.
Yes.
I'm gonna upgrade one of these and see if it.
I feel like it's there are some inconsistencies, but I would say it's absolutely satisfactory in terms of the information being communicated. You know who's important and who the workers and enemies are.
So it doesn't look to me like they change much when you upgrade them. Which is a bit of a shame. I also think I've just basically put down archers the whole way round, and they just ploughed straight through me. So it feels a bit odd. But maybe what I should be doing is upgrading my archers rather than. There, I've upgraded that one. Look, but there's nothing to tell me that this one and this one are.
Can you sell and upgrade while playing? So when the wave of enemy passes the first wave of archers,
I could sell
can you
this one.
quickly replace them?
Yeah, but I lose money, right? So it's 600 money to place.
Oh yeah, okay.
So the difficulties kind of. I'm gonna try and upgrade this one. So
thinking about meaningful play.
Well, what would be a good for the presentation?
Good would be professional, so complete and effective.
So I would say that some of the inconsistencies maybe stop it being there, but
yes,
it's very close.
Because Satisfactory puts it as like workable, and if so, there is effective but some inconsistencies. I think it is the inconsistencies that sort of put it into Satisfactory for me. But as you say, there is, the things are thoroughly communicated, so it could arguably be good.
Well, let's say it's sitting halfway between, right? So they've got everything going. It's just got that little bit of inconsistency, but it's fairly minor. And as you said, we get on to meaningful play. So this is kind of like a combination of things, right? So this is like the mechanics, the controls, and then actually does it work? So mechanics-wise, what have I got? I can place archers, and upgrade archers, and I can place producers. Can I upgrade them as well? Yeah, I can upgrade them. Do they? Oh, okay, they do produce more when you upgrade them.
Yeah, it does feel like the parts that are integrated into the game, the producers and the archers, have a effect on the environment, and that what you do does have some how you choose to invest your game money seems to have an effect on what's happening in the game. So there is definitely, I would say, some elements of that there. From your side, how engaging does it feel, and how engaging does it feel?
So it's a tower defense game. The problem for me is it feels like the balance is off. So it's actually not bad to play at all. If I pause, it doesn't allow me to interact with the towers, but that's fine. Problem is, I feel like I've got no chance of surviving this initial horde, essentially. So maybe I do need to activate that easy mode in a minute to see if we can get a bit further, because I'd like to see if there's more types of tower effectively.
Yes.
But yeah, if you look at this, I mean, these guys are battering away. I didn't notice. Do you get money for killing things as well? I don't even know if I've killed a single thing yet, actually. So it's quite hard to tell, because I feel like I can play, but I'm not fully engaged, because all I can do is put archers everywhere along the path, and then even then it isn't enough.
I did also just notice that your top left archer didn't really seem to actually be shooting any arrows in that particular play. Yeah.
I did notice that once you upgrade, they shoot 2 arrows.
Shoot 2 arrows.
But there we go. This one's up shooting 2 now. Look.
Yes, that's quite nice.
It just seems impossible to manage. So let's put it on easy mode and see if it's any better. I mean, what would a satisfactory be, say, for meaningful play?
A satisfactory for meaningful play would be it's playable, perhaps fewer mechanics, but usable controls and may have some minor bugs. Compare that to a good, which is the engaging play with multiple mechanics, smooth controls, and reasonable complexity, though there may still be very minor bugs.
Yeah, so I think there we go. Let's come out. But I haven't spotted any bugs. Let's try easy mode and start again. So there's 3 levels, so I'm also thinking we ought you ought to try and actually see what those levels are.
Yes.
Yeah, my problem at the moment is I'm not entirely sure what the complexity of it is. So I kind of feel like it's quite hard to assess. So this is one of the challenges with tower defense games is they take quite a long time to play.
Yeah, they do ramp up.
To be honest, I'm actually a real sucker for tower defense games. It's kind of like the strategy game in your pocket, right? I'm quite a big fan, but so I recognise some of the elements here, like the producers, like the champion. That's quite a common thing to have.
Yes, they've definitely understood that this kind of game needs this it's got a nice map. It's got your choice of investment in the in what you're going to buy and how you're going to defend your towers. That there are producers creating things, and that ultimately your hero is a last line defense.
Yeah.
Oh, you are doing some good shooting now, though.
It's definitely improved.
Easy mode is definitely easier. That's nice too.
Although it's still quite. So presumably the archers there would fire both sides, right? So maybe I was going to say one of the problems is that it doesn't feel like there's particular strategic places to put your archers, but that's not quite true, is there? Because some of these reach both things, but.
That they have an area of effect like that is nice. Is a nice design.
Yeah, and they do get bigger. So presumably, if I, for example, upgraded this one, I can't upgrade now. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're going to have to wait and see if we can. We'll come back to this.
Yeah, I think we can come back to that one. See how it develops.
So, what's next?
Next is level design as a broad thing. So first we've got goals, risks, and rewards.
So again, we haven't seen the other levels, so it's a bit difficult to talk about this. We could talk about the tutorial.
Yes, I was going to say to pop over to tutorial for the moment. That was largely text based.
Yeah, I mean, it did the job. But it was very much upfront. What you'd want to see in a tutorial really is you'd want to see it integrated into play. Introducing things as I go, and then ideally introducing things in such a way that it was very natural for me then to use them. Right? And I think one of the problems is that they really haven't done that at all. It's nicely presented. But essentially it is all at the beginning, right?
Yes. And in the criteria here, it is sort of to go into satisfactory and good. It does need the criteria sort of outlines that it's ideally aligned with play or revealed as you play.
So what would be the satisfactory then?
A satisfactory is a gradual explanation of gameplay and controls somewhat aligned with play.
Yeah, so it doesn't do that, right? It all up front. So it's clear. I know what to do. I've just noticed these things have circles around them, so that's another nice bit of information design. Coming. Here we go. I also like the zoom in. That's quite good as well.
Yeah, the zoom in on the text. I think also as I'm watching you, the killing orcs is giving you more money more quickly as well, which is nice.
Actually, I think we were talking about presentation a minute ago.
I think we can take that up to
I think we should take it up to good because they've got the zoom in stuff. They've got the narrative that frames it. So yeah, I think we can say that they've got the good. Zoomed me. Right, so I'm trying to. Let's just try and upgrade these as much as I can as we go around. Ooh. Use true power. Okay. All defense cells affected by the cold air, resulting in a slower attack speed. That's a bit mean.
Oh no, he's frosted you. That's a nice development of a mechanic though. That these kinds of things can change.
Although again, I kind of it could be better integrated, right? So what it should be saying is there are some things which are resistant to arrows, and then I should have options for different types of tower. So very often you'd have towers to slow you down, for example, that kind of stuff. Is it going to work or not? No, it killed me.
Oh, down you go.
So even on easy mode, I've failed. I think this is a good example of, in the course we talk a lot about balancing difficulty, and we say you really need to test with people who've not played your game before, because by the time you get to the end, you are an expert in your game.
Yeah.
Right, and this is a good example, right? Because we're on easy mode, I still can't get past level 1, and it means that we've not been able to see the rest of the game. And I have no idea whether in level 2 I get new towers and new things. So yeah, I would have expected. I wouldn't mind if this was level 3, this level of difficulty. This would be okay, right? Make it properly challenging. You've got to really make sure you balance all your production and all your archers and everything. But in this level, I think it's quite problematic. Have I just not got enough producers, do you think? Also, it is a bit annoying clicking on...
The producers, compared to the amount I think you get from actually killing orcs, don't seem to be producing a huge amount.
Right, okay.
So they're bringing... Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to build this up as much as I can here.
Yeah, although when I'm looking at orc money, am I actually just looking at? I think I'm actually just looking at the damage given. I think those pink numbers are the damage they're taking, not money they're giving you.
So whether or not I'm getting any money at all, I don't know.
So it is definitely the producers who are giving you the cash then. Pew pew pew.
Emergency archers.
Oh, your frost monster is still standing in front of you. He's just hanging out in the scene now.
What he's doing there? Right, let's get some more producers and see if we can get past this bit. Because I think if we can't, we're going to have to go through the rest of it based on just this first level, which is a real shame. But this, unfortunately, is what happens. So I'm having to click all the way over here on a little thing and then back again to do all my upgrades and everything. So let's try upgrading. So I am getting more. I'm getting a lot more money, I think, than I was previously. But
I could spend that all immediately on people to shoot things.
I don't think it gave me enough of a downtime in order to do the things I wanted to do. Feeling that actually building the archers up is the most cost-effective thing to do to start with.
The rapid upgrades is definitely helping.
Upgrade. I want to just upgrade all of these, really. Upgrade that one. I've got. It's taking me a long time to upgrade each one.
Yeah, the ramping. Things. Do the upgrades ramp up in cost as well? For like level 2, level 3 upgrade, etc.
Yes, so it's 450, and then the second one is 500.
I see. That's quite nice.
So I've got the feeling that what I should be aiming for here is basically archers on max everywhere in order to try and stop them. At the moment, I'm now getting money so fast that I don't know what kind of spend it. Go.
That's quite nicely balanced. The spend to ramp up balance. I quite like that in tower defense games where it's like I have a lot of money, quickly spend, and it's often not quite enough, or you feel like you're running out of time and resource. It's a good build of tension.
Yeah. So I feel like we're kind of making some progress now. Here comes the boss.
Aha!
Ice Demon, charge with me. Grab hold of them and just upgrade them all at once. desperately upgrading them in front of the board. Okay.
The board.
Slow down my attack speed. Again, I appreciate what they're doing, but it does feel a bit random. It feels like it's not foreshadowed. I can't respond to it.
Yeah, I guess the part of that confuses me is because these are frost elves, so maybe they should have the cooling power.
Yeah.
Although I do like the fact that it says I'm going to do this, and then the ice demon has an effect, which does feel like he is different than just a big guy. He is a boss. He has a boss power.
Yeah.
Though he is going to now kill you again.
Kill me again. Oh dear. Okay. Oh.
In terms of meaningful play, there's some minor little bugs there, like the guy lurking, but it does sound like it was engaging. You know, it's definitely engaged your attention.
I'd have to say it is engaging. So I'm getting the measure of it now. So yes, I think it probably is at the engaging level. The mechanics seem a little bit simple, but then I can buy and sell stuff. I can upgrade. It's showing me, I've got the area of effect it's showing me. So I think they're probably doing enough. What was the one up from engaging?
So satisfactory is that it's playable with perhaps fewer mechanics and usable controls and some minor bugs. Whereas good is that it's engaging with several mechanics, smooth controls, and reasonable complexity with a few minor bugs. To get to excellent, the sort of ranking is it's fun, the mechanics are complementary, the controls are intuitive with higher complexity, and there are no bugs. So I think saying it's good is probably fair for me.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's difficult to justify going any higher than that based on what we've seen so far. I think if they brought in a bit more sophistication in the later levels, then I think it might well go above that. But at the moment, it feels kind of
Okay.
Just feels a little bit too straightforward for that. But yeah, I'm definitely engaged, as you can tell from the fact I'm half concentrating on what I'm doing. Just so busy trying to click on these stupid little squares.
So if we think about fulfilling the brief, in terms of fulfilling the brief, let's go with we've talked a bit about the tutorials. We can get back to that. But in the level, if you survive this time, let's see if you survive, and we can do the general level design. With the tutorial, for it to be absent, it needs to be absent, and it's not absent. There definitely is, a tutorial at the beginning.
So what was the pass?
A pass is that there is a gradual explanation of gameplay and controls revealed as you play. On the poorer side, there's some explanation. So there is gradual explanation. It does say this happens, then this happens. It goes this, and then this, and then this. But it's not as you play.
I think so. So the pass says is as you play, right?
Yeah.
So there is no explanation as you play, like you said. It's I would say maybe halfway between a pour and a pass in that case.
Yeah.
Because within that tutorial bit, it does gradually explain the bits, as you said.
Yes. Yeah. It does step that. It's not all just one block, but it's not as you play, as you say.
Yeah. So okay. What's next?
Okay, so let's see if you get through. Let's see if you get through this level for your last chance, and I'll have a quick.
Feeling I'm not going to.
And I'll have a quick look at the design element, the core dynamic, and the feedback engagement. So for the core dynamic, obviously the prompt question is, what core dynamic do you feel your game possesses and why? So they've said, firstly, the goal of the game is clear, which is to protect the hero from being attacked by monsters. This gives the players a sense of mission, making them unconsciously want to build and upgrade defense towers to defeat the approaching monsters and safeguard the hero. Secondly, the numerical values in the game have been carefully calculated and a defense tower upgrading system has been set up. It clearly makes players feel certain pressure and challenges. Moreover, the enhancement brought by the upgraded defense towers can further stimulate the release of dopamine in players, giving them a stronger sense of accomplishment. Finally, the game has arranged certain plot descriptions to satisfy players' certain curiosity. Coupled with the locking and unlocking of levels and defense tower, it can further stimulate players' desire to explore. Which I thought to me is very, like, really good thinking about motivations and mechanics, but it doesn't describe a core dynamic.
So did it not say a core dynamic at all?
Not that I could see. Not from the ones. Yeah, not from the list that Age has given, which is...
Yeah, I was going to say, so is it worth saying, so what we're expecting to see is a dynamic, along the lines of destruction or puzzle or collection. And what we wanted them to do is to pick one of those core dynamics that tends to drive a whole game and design a game around that. That doesn't mean you can't have other dynamics, but if you do, they should be in service to the kind of main one. This is kind of interesting because it's you could each it as a kind of a puzzle or as a destruction. You'd probably say it was destruction. I don't know. Do you have a view on that?
I think tower defense is difficult to categorize in this way. You can argue that it's sort of spatial reasoning because you're trying to work out the thing. You can argue that it is destruction because you're there to fight the oncoming hordes, basically.
Resource management as well, definitely.
Yeah, resource management.
We did it.
You did it. Well done.
It said unlock new tower, right? So we got there eventually.
Okay. I'm excited to see this new tower.
So the Orc banner has fallen off. With side relief, one. Okay. Yeah. Wait. Show us the new tower. Show us the next level. Right.
I can tell what kind of player you are from this, Dave. Not a narrative guy.
But do you know what? I am normally.
I was going to say known hater of narrative. No. But yeah. So there's not. So that's difficult because they have done a lovely description of the play motivations there, but and indeed their design and a breakdown of their design decisions. But I don't think there's really a specific core dynamic described, although the goal is protect the hero from being attacked by monsters, so and the mission is defense.
Yes.
So it's build and upgrade. So you could argue that they have said it's build.
I think they're just describing. So I think first of all that's a problem because they've obviously not really said what it is. If we were to just assume that they were going for one of them, I mean, you could also argue it's survival, right? It's the
survival is a good
and it kind of feels more like a survival one than anything else because of the way that it's so desperate. So I suppose the thing is, does it all work in that one direction? Does it actually help us does it make it feel like a desperate rush for survival? I mean, it kind of does. It's kind of built into the tower defense structure to a certain extent.
Do you feel like the narrative elements help support that as well? They're giving you the why.
Well, I mean, it's nothing really more than a premise. It is helpful. So if we think about this, let's pause this a second. So, so if we assume it's survival, it's probably what it is. Then we're destroying things, but we're destroying them in order to survive. There's resource management, but we're doing resource management in order to survive. So I think they've actually done a relatively good job of creating a game which is quite coherent and based around that dynamic, but they just haven't articulated it in their own game notes, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
So what would be a good for core dynamic?
A good for core dynamic would be a clear core dynamic that is supported by the primary mechanics.
I think it's definitely there, isn't it?
Yeah. I would say so. They haven't been super clear about that in their notes, but they have delivered it in terms of you know what you want when you're playing this game. You understand your goals.
Yeah, I just realised I forgot to build any producers, which is probably bad.
Oh, you're gonna have a rough time now.
Yeah.
Cool. we can pop that in as that. And in terms of feedback, let me just read the feedback here. What was the feedback you received and how did you respond? Okay, so there was problems with unclear game controls and level difficulties. So they've written that due to the lack of development experience, it was assumed by default at the initial stage of the project that all players would know how to operate, resulting in most players being unable to fully utilize the controls during gameplay. Therefore, in the later stage, when the project entered the first level, a tutorial panel was added to introduce the game's operation methods to players in the form of pictures and text, avoiding the problem of lacking guidance.
So that's really odd, right? Because the whole brief was to build a game with a tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think it's perfectly valid feedback to say you were asked to build a tutorial and you haven't built one. But you know, and thank goodness they added something in. But still, it's strange.
They have added also.
Yeah.
There's a little more. To make the game more challenging, there wasn't much leeway in the numerical aspects, which led to some players being unable to complete the game. Consequently, easy mode was added to the game. Comparatively, it is easier to complete the game in this mode. Okay, so they received feedback that the game was too hard, but balancing the numbers was difficult in terms of development. So for that reason, they've added an easy mode. And adding an easy mode, I think, was a good shout because as you said, it's very difficult.
Yeah, I think that's the nature of, because they've got the production bit in there. So if you haven't got the production, it's much easier to balance your game because you know precisely how much value is coming out because you get gold for killing monsters normally, right?
Yeah.
So you can balance it by making sure that the costs of the towers are sufficient to kill the monsters that are coming out, and it works. The problem you have with something like this is if the person who's playing doesn't invest enough, then you know there's nothing that they can do basically. It's very difficult to know that. So I think that can work, but it is probably better for harder levels. It feels like so. I don't think this is too difficult. I just think it's too difficult too quickly. Sense.
Yeah. So kind of a potential issue with sort of pacing, potentially in terms of level design.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So in terms of feedback. So
what would be a pass, for example?
A pass for that would be feedback was addressed, but the changes had limited success. And a satisfactory would be the feedback was addressed and the changes have been somewhat successful. So I think the fact that they have added easy mode, to me, I would say that has been somewhat successful.
Yep.
They did add a tutorial level when it was sort of given as feedback, but that was the game brief, so I don't think we can really include
I don't think we can give that. Yeah. I think you're probably right. Oh, so we did win, so we get to see the final one.
Oh, bravo. So you're getting the hang of this now. I would say
yeah, so where did that leave us for that one?
Personally, I would put that in satisfactory because they have implemented some feedback there, and it has made the game somewhat successful in as evidenced by we continue to play it, and have been able to get past the first level, which is nice.
Yeah. But that is the only thing they said, right? So that's the so I've been playing level 2. It unlocked a thing.
Ooh.
So this is level 2. I was about to complain that they've not given me any different levels, but they have.
Here you go. You're in a different.
So which way is coming out? That way? Do you think?
Yeah, he's going to come round clockwise. I'm pretty sure. I expect. Hope he doesn't come too quickly. He's waiting for you.
While to build up the archers. I'm a little bit disappointed with their feedback, to be honest. I kind of think that. The tutorial thing I think we can just dismiss because that's just the brief. Putting the easy level in, the problem with putting the easy level in is I think that's a good thing to do for this particular game because it's a let's play and it's being assessed and they obviously want us to see everything. But in terms of gameplay, the correct solution would be to balance the gameplay properly, to have easier levels progressing. So I think the problem with saying that's satisfactory is if they'd. I don't think they've done the right thing. Basically, I think they've kind of put a sticking plaster on it rather than solve the problem.
Okay, I see your argument. Yeah.
So
potentially put that into more limited success, putting it as a pass.
So I think that's probably right.
Fair.
What does that leave us? Anything we have not covered?
Okay, yeah. So now we're thinking about so there's still a bit on level design. So we've got the pacing and the goals, risks, and rewards to think about. So I will say the pace, the tension does seem to rise over time. There's been some, and as to risk reward and goals, you've played a few times, and each time you got a little bit closer to being able to defeat that boss until getting there, which is good.
To lose to the Iceman, I think. Oh no! We got him.
Oh, you got him.
Oh, that's not because he's not the boss. They're just Icemen. Okay, so they've reused the
Yeah, they're just regular old Icemen. The Icemen come.
So pacing, I'd agree. I think kind of, and the boss gives us a bit of a finale as well, which is quite nice. So what would a good be for pacing?
A good for that would be tension rises over time in a coherent pattern.
And satisfactory would be?
And satisfactory would be tension clearly rises over time.
So I think we can say that it probably hits the good because of the boss, right? So that's the coherent pattern, is that you fight several waves and then you get the boss. That kind of.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And then in terms of goals, risks, rewards, it's again about coherence. So it's whether those goals and risks and rewards are limited, coherent, or clear and coherent, and continue.
Do you think why risks and rewards are here?
I guess the risk is putting in more archers and they're not having money to resource to upgrade them. Whereas if you risk building only resource boys, then you don't have enough archers to defeat the orcs as they come round. So there is definitely some balanced payoff, I think, there.
Yes, I'd agree. So where I think that they've not quite got it right is I've played a couple of tower defense games which have this mechanism, and I've played the way they do it is you don't build producers, you get interest on the money that you have at the end of the wave. And what that encourages you to do is it encourages you to use the minimum possible force to resist the incoming army, as it were. And I think by doing it the way they've done it here, that becomes quite difficult to measure.
I think that's fair, yeah, because the ultimate goal is just always throw in lots and lots and lots of as many archers and as many producers as you possibly can, and upgrade them as fast as you can, which does keep it a little flatter.
Yeah, so I don't feel like I'm making those kind of strategic decisions, I suppose. So I think it is in here. I think you're right, but it just doesn't feel like it quite works. So what
would you say that puts it into so a pass in this, for example, would be a limited set of goals, risks, and rewards, whereas satisfactory would be a coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards, and good would be clear and coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards.
So I think it's probably the satisfactory. I think it's not clear enough to be at the kind of good level.
I think if they had that a bit more complexity around it, then that would sort of take it into the good area. But there is definitely some there. Yeah. Okay, I think that does take us through all of the feedback criteria.
So we have. I don't think. Oh, we're waiting for the next one. I think. So we haven't quite seen level 3. But I think at this point we've been playing for quite a while, haven't we? So
indeed, yeah. The time. I'm afraid. I think your time is definitely up here. I'm afraid.
So we're going to have to move on. So I would say that this is actually quite a nicely implemented tower defense game with lots of things to like. I think it's presented really well. I think it's got some really nice ideas in it. I think the part here is the difficulty is that it's really difficult to balance a tower defense game.
Yes.
And it's even more difficult when you have a tower defense game where you're producing as opposed to just earning money from destroying monsters. And that's kind of let them down a little bit in terms of the balance of the game and how challenging it is. And then of course the other element is it's a shame they didn't do more to integrate the tutorial with the levels. I think you could have done some really nice stuff about having some simple waves to start with, actually demonstrating what the towers do, demonstrating how the producers work.
I like this. I have to say, I like this furious guy who's just coming around real fast.
Yes.
So there's some lovely development.
So lots to like, but just kind of perhaps not quite there, and they've made some decisions which make it quite difficult to get it right. Okay, yeah, shall we move on to our next game?
All right, yeah, let's do that.
So our next game is called Pogo Guy, which I think I saw in the expo, but I didn't get a chance to play it. So
if it's the one I'm thinking of, I did get a chance to play it. So yeah, I'll be able to draw on that experience as well. That'll be nice.
Okay, so here we are. We've got a kind of a screen. Go. Volume. I can't hear anything. Shall I hear anything?
I also can't hear anything.
I haven't adjusted the mixer, so when the music starts, it might be. What is that? Go, or do we hit the arrow?
Unsure.
Just died.
Oh dear.
Again? Maybe that was just exit game. Leave, maybe. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Notice they're not locked. This is such a good idea when you're doing these things, because it means that if I can't do level 1, I can still do level 2.
You can still see that what kind of projection is.
My score is I've got a score at the top that's counting down and a timer that's counting up. So do you think my option? I'm trying to do this as fast as possible, or do you think I'm trying to get the highest score as possible?
Oh, both.
Odd to have two things, like two clocks. You never know what the time is. Right? I've got 4 hearts, and it says press space to jump. There we go.
And off you go.
Space to charge a jump. That's nice. So I really there's 2 things I really like here. I really like the way that the instructions are integrated into the level, so you discover them naturally as you go along. Yeah. And I also like the fact that I need to be successful here because I've got a big cliff to get up. So let's do a big jump. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, we love to pogo.
I apologize. I may be saying "we" a lot watching this because I find it very sweet.
I also quite like when you press the button down, you get those little dots appearing, which is quite nice.
It's nice, but just a nice little touch of visual feedback there.
Place mid-air to bounce when you land. Yeah.
So hold. Boing.
Told me there to do it.
It does seem to set you up for failure there, for sure.
Yeah, because I presume what I need to be doing here is just being. Oops, I did it. I did it by accident. So this just looks like a big jump, right? I just got to time it. So. All right.
So I basically did exactly the same thing when playing this game. Yep. But the difference was that I had the creator next to me effectively. So I do now know what the intention was here and how you get around it if you're interested in knowing. Basically it's
I'm really stuck.
Yeah, you can't get up that second cliff without holding spacebar in midair to bounce when you land.
When I fall down, you mean?
When you come off that first cliff, so bounce yourself onto the spikes.
When you come down,
if I
do that and then hold the spacebar down, Oops.
Yeah, with your little head going red, wee, and then up you go again. Yeah. So it causes you to
Right.
bounce higher. Yeah.
So the problem is the
Hmm.
instructions are in the wrong place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that does make sense. Restart to menu. So if I go back to the menu, go. So that was level. So that gives me that's reporting my score, but not my time.
Mm.
There you go. So are those buttons? Do you think?
Wee.
That
Oh
was
wow. Okay.
partly by
Fancy.
accident, but yeah. Oh, I'm going to make the wrong choice. I had a little bit of risk reward decision there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, heading up there. Also bad. Let's try A, and then the big one maybe. Go, did it? Okay, and then
Glorious.
fireball. Yeah. So it's
Oh.
it's very brave to make a
Hmm.
game where there is only one control.
Indeed, and that is actually, I have to say, that's something I think they've done quite well because it gives you
Yeah.
a really
Ooh,
interesting way to like explore the space.
yeah.
Um,
Okay. Well, this is
and
quite
I
interesting.
like that there are checkpoints along the th a lot along the way as well. Boing boing. Yeah,
I
I
love
really
the
like
little.
the little boing boings are extremely cute.
Oh, he's got to go faster than that.
Ah!
No. Oh. Also, did you notice the camera rock? That's quite
Oh,
good.
I no, that is
Very good.
nice.
Very good.
Mm. I think the fact that they focused on, they did just go with one single button effectively,
Yeah.
meant that they could focus on things like making, nice boing boings. The little guy's face goes red when you press
Yeah.
down in the sky. That they could, spend some time working on basically presenting it as a complete game. And I think that was a good call.
So, should we go through the marks again? Because we've actually seen the whole thing now, which is
Let's do
great.
it. Yeah, we have. Okay, so presentation, graphics, audio, and UI. I can't hear any sound, and I don't know if you can.
So they did have a volume, didn't they? But there appears to
Yeah,
be. I'm not getting
which
any
sort of
sound
makes me
at
think
all.
that there was intended to be sound.
Yeah, but it's
Is it?
missing.
Could it be in your because you turned your overall volume down to about one because the last game was quite loud.
Was
Could
No, that was only for that game. So this
Oh, it
game will
was.
be.
Yes, of course. You're right. It
So I'll
wasn't
tell
the
you what we'll do
system
is we'll have
volume.
a little of a play, off camera effectively, and see if we can get the
Mm,
sound back. So let's assume that there isn't any sound, and if we can get it working, we'll
mm.
change our minds. I'm keeping forgetting to do that thing again.
Sure.
All right. Yeah.
Otherwise, I think the overall design is very consistent.
Yeah.
I like in these kinds of 8-bit style games when the faux pixels stay of similar size. I think that's, nice and consistent, and they
Yep.
broadly have. I think it works with the fairly simple play, and it's pretty, and like buttons that do, those bouncy buttons look like they're going to
Yeah.
bounce you in directions, and they do. Spikes are, send you back to the checkpoint. Flags are checkpoints. Hearts are health. It all, this is information design that makes sense to me.
Yes. I think I'd agree. So the graphics I think are consistent. Information design is good. Um, I said the only complaint I have is I don't. My score also appears to be zero now, and I don't know why.
I think, yeah.
But yeah, that's the only problem I've got is the score and the score and the
Mm,
timer. I mean, it literally is two clocks. I'm like, I just have
yeah.
no idea. Oops, why that is, but otherwise very
Okay.
good. Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think because of the sound, probably not at the good level. What was satisfactory?
So satisfactory is that it's workable, so it's effective, but there are some inconsistencies. So with the sound and the double clocks, that might put into the satisfactory
Yeah, I
area?
think so. I think so because
Okay.
otherwise, effectively, it's like the graphics are good, the information design is good, possibly even higher, and the sound
Mm.
is absent. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
there
I
are
think
some inconsistencies
yeah,
in it, but broadly, strong work.
yeah, yeah.
Meaningful play.
I think that's a bug now. Like schools.
Oh no. Okay, yeah, we've got a little bug there. Yeah.
So meaningful play. So um, extra minute. So I've only got
Mm,
one thing I can do, but
mm,
there are more mechanics than that going on, right? So we've got
mm,
spikes, we've got these little fireballs, we've
mm-hmm.
uh, got the obviously the jumping, obviously it's a key
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Key
We've got
jumps.
the buttons, or not the buttons, the sort of springs that kind of
Yeah.
push you around. We've got those going on as well. Um, so so there's a relatively decent amount of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. Um, would you say I mean so there are there's a couple of little minor things but it does look I mean I found the interplay of mechanics certainly engaging and the control frustrating in ways to work out but in a positively frustrating way so I found that quite smooth
Yeah,
actually
that's brave, isn't it? Going for that.
yeah
Positively frustrating is very hard to pull off.
it
Um,
is and I was quite I thought that was very bold and it kind of paid off.
yeah, so I would say engaging. I think that there may be, although there are a fair few things going on in the level,
Mm,
it does feel like it's missing something.
mm,
Um, the so we've what have we got? We've only got this pogo thing going on.
uh-huh.
I just feel maybe there needs to be some more variety in that space, or
Mm.
they need to develop that further as you go along. So it feels like it's like I said. I think it is definitely engaging, but for
Hmm.
me, it doesn't. It's not quite getting up to that fun level where
Yeah,
I want to play again and again. I'm like I've played it now, and I'm carrying on playing it because obviously we want to see it, but I don't really have a desire to play it.
yeah, play it
And
forever.
and it might be to do with the challenge. It might be to do with
Mm.
the simplicity.
So
But yeah,
part of me actually, because I've been cheeky and looked ahead at what their sort of core dynamic is, and I do
yeah,
think it might be partly because they've aimed for a slightly different thing than they have presented, and I think that's caused them
interesting.
some trouble down the line.
All right.
Um,
Well, let's say for
so
this it's engaging. Um,
cool.
uh, our next criteria.
Our next criteria is the goals, risks, and rewards. There you do get some choices,
Yeah, there's not
but
many.
are they meaningful?
Um,
Yeah.
so I I've gone on to the level now where there isn't any choices, but but so there was definitely one where I could go underneath the platform and try to pick up the hearts.
Uh-huh.
Right, uh, that's the menu. I think that was it. Some things here, like there's a heart there. Look, I can try and
Mm.
get.
So there's some risk reward for certain because you went gone for
Yeah.
the heart and lost some there.
So I think
Um,
they've definitely got some risk and reward.
mm,
And there's, although it's not the end level. No. So this one here, I could presumably go over the top. So
mm,
that's interesting because it's choosing an alternative challenge. So it's
mm,
choosing between two different types of risk.
mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely some, but again, I think that might be about it. That
Yeah.
little
So
example there. So there's definitely examples of it. What would
mm.
satisfactory be?
Satisfactory for that would be a coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards, whereas a pass would be a limited set of goals, risks, and rewards.
Yeah, and I think coupled with the fact that the goal is a little bit ambiguous in that we've got a
Mm,
timer and we've got a score, and it's not quite
mm.
clear how I get my score up.
Yeah.
So maybe that's maybe missing is perhaps there's a collectible element here.
Mm,
A lot of games like this, they'd have the classic kind of there are 3 stars around the level, and you have to collect the three
mm,
stars, but you don't need to collect the 3 stars, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which means it's kind of like, okay, I can do a 1 star run, or I can do a 2 star or a 3 star run, and I have
Yeah,
choices then, and then it gives me much richer risks and rewards because I'm figuring out different routes around the level, or I figure out
yeah.
how to. So without that, it feels a little bit too straightforward.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think the goals, risks, and rewards is quite limited. Probably at the pass level.
I
Definitely
think that's
there.
fair.
This example we're
Yeah.
looking at is definitely there. But
Mm.
um,
The next is pacing. Um, so the funny thing is like this is this game is fun, but I don't feel like there is a huge amount of things driving me forward, or creating a sense of anxiety. It feels quite explorative around the space.
there's a little bit right in
Mm.
that. Look at me. Like,
But I think that's weird because of the two clocks effect again. I'm not quite sure whether I'm going for
what you're
time or
doing.
score
Yeah,
or
yeah, quite.
parts.
So yeah, it's uh, yeah. I think you're right. Um,
There
um,
is, however, definitely some variation in tension. Like this bit that you are negotiating here with number of spikes
yeah,
and things and stuff. There's definitely variations in tension.
yeah.
But
Actually,
does it
this
ramp
is
up
actually
coherently?
this is another choice actually looking at, isn't it? This is another risk reward, but
Yeah,
it's the same thing I think, but
yeah.
just another place it occurs. Yeah, so I think there is definitely pacing because it gets more
Mm,
complex and it introduces new things like the buttons.
hmm
Um,
Yes, yes, that's a
but
good
there's
point.
no, but within it feels quite flat. Um, like you said, the kind of the because there's not much in terms of aim.
Mm,
There's not much to kind of ramp up in terms of reward, if you sort of mean.
yeah.
Um, So yeah, I feel like that's probably due to the level design, which I guess we'll get to. I keep doing this. I keep falling into this stupid thing and forgetting that I've got to press the button.
Not quite.
Yeah. Okay. So for pacing, what would be a satisfactory?
For satisfactory pacing would be tension clearly rises over time.
Be a pass.
Tension somewhat rises over time.
Um. So I kind of maybe halfway between the two.
I think
Because
that's fair. I think
it does
yeah,
rise,
mm.
but it just
somewhat
feels
somewhat feels a little harsh, but so yeah, possibly between the two. But
yeah.
yeah, I just don't, I don't feel like there's enough anxiety pushing me through. Mm,
There's they definitely get more complicated. There's definitely
mm,
progress. That is happening.
mm, certainly.
Um, but yeah, it just kind of feels a
It's
little bit
that
lackluster.
so there is yeah the complexity does change, which I think is where some of that tension is coming from. You get your
Yeah,
buttons for different things, more fireballs, etc. But it isn't countered by a need to go faster or collect more things or engage in a more complex play pattern.
but do you think that assume that was full and that was minimum, but perhaps it wasn't? Let's try. Yeah, I think that's right. So I think a kind of compromise between the two.
Mm.
So what's next?
Next is the tutorial. So the tutorial starts out so strongly, being so integrated with the
Yeah.
space as you go, and then there's this bit where it's, oh, this is in the wrong place. Now they have made it so that you can then throw yourself back quite quickly
Yes.
to
You got
another
to
flag, which also has the added benefit of teaching you what the spikes do, which is they throw you back
very
to the
true.
last. So
Um,
that's some nice bit of like tutorial through level
I'll
design
tell you
there.
what the real problem is there is that this platform I'm on here
Mm,
is if it was about half a character length shorter, you'd be able to jump
mm,
on it with a super jump.
mm,
And so when you fall down there, you just think, "Oh, I can jump up there,"
mm.
and you'll
You don't, you
spend
know.
yeah, if you hadn't told me, I would have spent 10 minutes trying to jump up there, feeling very frustrated. Whereas I think if
I
it
did
was,
do that.
but if it was obviously too high, then I'd be
Yeah,
like,
then you
oh,
know there's
I'm
something else you need
missing
to do.
something, right? So
Mm.
the other thing is, I'm just wondering the buttons that they introduce, the fireballs. Obviously, the fireballs I don't suppose there's much to add. But the buttons, I forgot where the buttons were. But the buttons in level perhaps two, I don't think they introduce those. They don't tell you what they do, but they
That's true.
do.
They don't, but
But they
you do get a
do.
space to play around in them.
Yeah, you do, and you get that little space. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I think they've done okay with the tutorial.
Mm.
Um, so what would a good be?
A good for that would be gradual explanation of gameplay and controls fully aligned with play.
An excellent B.
The excellent would be gradual explanation of gameplay and controls fully aligned with play and sometimes communicated through level design, which I do actually think they've done in terms of the buttons and the spikes.
Yeah. So maybe they've kind of just got that one error, I suppose.
Mm.
So maybe halfway between a good and excellent, and so actually they've
Fair.
made a pretty good go at this.
Mm.
And considering, I mean, considering it's a one button game,
Yeah.
they've actually done quite well to have enough to tutorialize. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. So for the core dynamic, um, Pogo Guy. So the core dynamic Pogo Guy is a race to the end platformer designed for one button gameplay. It possesses this dynamic due to its scoring system, of which the aim is to always race to the end of the level as fast as possible with as few deaths as possible.
Yeah.
The scoring functions with a countdown from a max score affected by the time taken to complete the course with penalties for death, meaning the quicker and cleaner the player can reach the end of the level, the higher score they will finish with.
Yeah. So I
But
can
I
see.
don't think this
Yeah.
feels that way.
No, it feels like a puzzle platformer.
Yeah, I think this
Um,
comes under sort of spatial reasoning, puzzle platformer kind of thing. Um and I think I did mention this to them in one of our feedback sessions. I was like, this is you've got a lovely single mechanic here, which is a really interesting way to
yeah.
navigate these spaces with having to go back and forth. And I understand why there are race elements here and potentially, as you've said,
Yeah.
collection ones, but don't feel like this is a race to the end. And
Well,
I think that kind of has led to some of the inconsistency, incoherence in some of the mechanics
yes.
because they've gone, oh, you want to do this faster, don't you? And when you play, you kind of go, well, no, I want to do it, as
Yeah.
I
I
want
want
to
to think
negotiate the
about it,
space.
and we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the aesthetic doesn't help. I mean, the music, we got no music, so if they had sort of a
Mm,
really fast music, that might help. But I'm not racing, right?
mm,
I mean, ultimately, so I'm moving rather ponderously. Um, there's no. I've got the timer, but there's no
yeah.
kind of.
Or if there were, say, buttons to speed you up or push you along or skip
s-
parts of the level to make it feel like you
yeah.
can go along at a faster and faster
So
clip as you play
so
better.
I think we've got problems with the aesthetic level because it's not nothing about this is telling me I'm racing, right?
Mm,
There's problems with the mechanics in that there's no. So a lot of games like this might be, you're racing up and you have rising water or something that's kind of
mm,
pushing you forward,
mm,
and there's nothing like that. And then you're right, things like the choices that I have, they're not playing with the risk for the racing at all, right?
mm-hmm.
So what they should be doing is saying, well, if it's a race to the end, I should have shorter routes which are simple. Shorter routes which are more dangerous, and longer routes which are simpler, right? And they don't
Mm,
do that, so it just
mm-hmm.
feels a bit incoherent. I think.
Yeah.
Said,
So,
I don't think they've got any other. Um, yeah, they've got no other kind of dynamics that are really pulling you away. It is more of a puzzler. So
mm.
what did they what would be like a satisfactory for this?
A satisfactory for here is a clear core dynamic that is partially supported by the primary mechanics. And I do think it is partially supported by the primary mechanics.
Yeah, it just that's
They've
as high
got
as
the
it
clocks
goes,
and
isn't it?
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that sounds perfect for what we've just described actually. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, feedback. Now let's have a little look. The key feedback we received in the first lab was adding enough depth to our game to make one-button gameplay fulfill our core dynamic. In order to engage well with the player as a race to the end game, we implemented the bouncing mechanics, which allow the player to continue their movement after each jump by bouncing off each surface. This was supplemented with the addition of different obstacle types and a checkpoint system in order to balance out the difficulty should it get too hard. I do think the checkpoints were a good call.
So that sounded like a kind of a rationale for why the game. So what was the feedback they had again? It was to.
It was that you may need this game might need some adding enough depth to our game to make the one-button gameplay fulfill our core dynamic.
Which, in fairness, is we did say they've done a good job in actually managing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think actually they've responded to that quite well, right? Because they weren't told anything specific, and yet they've interpreted it quite nicely.
Yeah. So they've added obstacles and the checkpoint system. Putting the checkpoint system, I think, was a good thought about that, and the different different obstacle types actually was a nice way to add depth. It helps to develop the game for sure.
Yeah. So what would be a good for? Or have they got other feedback that they've?
There's more. There's a couple more bits as well. In addition to this, we focused on player feedback for our visuals, implementing a clean design for our scoring and health systems, which clearly show the player the key elements of the game design. Indicators for jump power and direction, which was key and needed so the player can actually tell where they're going. Combined with clear visual effects for damage as well as movement, which we have said that they did, with the shaking camera.
Yeah.
And each action taken by the player is clearly communicated in a way that can allow them to make the best possible decision, which I agree with. And then they add in order to reach the end as fast as possible, which I'm not sure I fully agree with, but they did definitely implement all those bits. Finally, they've said we also received feedback about the reaction of our physics to different level designs. Refining the physics of the game was important to ensure a good balance between active and static movements effects. We achieved this with jump power and friction altered in controllers. And I think they did do that nicely. I think it is probably I think that makes the game that makes the mechanics quite engaging and smooth.
So what would be a good?
Good for that. Feedback has been addressed and the changes have been successful.
Excellent. Was that where the interpretation comes in?
Yeah, that's feedback has been interpreted and addressed and the changes have been successful.
I think they have done a fair bit of interpretation, haven't they? In that
adding the different obstacles, adding some friction, lots of feedback to the player about where you're going and what you're doing. I think that was pretty strong.
So I think we can put that as excellent. Yeah.
Lovely.
So I mean, again, nice game, really coherent. Few mixed messages. Is it a puzzle? Is it a race? Are you scoring time? Are you scoring points? But tutorial's really nicely done, and they've developed that one touch mechanic really nicely. They've done a good job.
I thought that was a very clever way to really follow the fun and develop that into a full little game.
Yeah, great way to put it. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our next game. So our next game is called Underground Odessey.
Lovely. What we got here?
See, okay, it's got a menu screen, play and exit. So I'm not hearing any sound again.
No, me neither.
Well, there we go.
Ah, okay.
So I'm actually going to go into the mixer and turn it down a bit, because otherwise this is going to drive us nuts over the next 30 minutes. So give me a second, start again. Right, that's a bit better. There we go. Use A and D to move.
Oh no! Oh, you're going left, right?
I thought I was the skeleton in the middle.
Ah, yeah, your little guy on the little guy down the bottom. Hazmat suit.
There we go. And I can press space to jump. All right, fine. So I presume those are bad. Yes, they are. Okay. Collect blue energy around the level. Avoid enemies to prevent dying. So why am I? I've got energy collected at the top. It's interesting. That looks like a toggle. Oh, it is a toggle. Brilliant. Okay, I think.
What do you toggle on and off?
I think that's just. I think this is supposed to be my energy bar, but I think they've forgotten to disable the fact that you can click on it.
I see.
So I think it's just a bug. All right. See
Okay,
what
no
happens.
worries.
We'll see what happens. I'll put it back where it was. If you're watching, sorry. Should be messing around with your UI. It'll be fine. I'm sure it'll. Yeah, whatever. Right. I get that one over there. Will it reset my energy? Yeah, there we go. We'll fill the energy bar to open the portal. I like the fact that they put it over here, so you come over to this portal and then see that message.
Yeah, that's your first one. It's nice and easy to get. Though I have to say, when I played it, I absolutely did not go over there first. The first thing I did was try and go vertical and, I don't know, talk to a bat or something.
Go. Okay. Ooh, go away.
They're quick, aren't they?
Oh.
I thought you were going to collide with that.
I don't. It does say I've got.
Bit.
Oh, it says I've got. I'm trying to think. Don't have to.
You do not, no. You've got 5 out of 5, so you don't have to get all of them.
Go back here and press E. There we go.
And through you go.
Next.
Oh.
It's a little bit floaty, but it kind of works.
Yeah, there's. I definitely felt like when I was playing that the I think maybe it might be the collider on the on your little guy is a bit off because I feel like I was getting hooked on sticky and kind of got hooked on things. But I like the movement and complexity in the of the little guys. Everything on the screen moving and engaging, and all looks like it belongs to a coherent visual language. Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so I think you're right. So again, just to reiterate your point, always a good idea to make your collider slightly smaller than the actual visual, and be a bit forgiving, basically, because otherwise this happens.
All the way back to the start. Can you go through those arches? Yep.
I didn't think I could.
I didn't think you could, but then I also thought that the sort of diagonal sort of arch bits in the top left and right. I thought you would collide with those. So I did.
I did wonder, but I thought, well, there's no harm in trying.
Fair. But it was that made me then think, oh, maybe this big gate arch, maybe it'll also work in the same way, which I can't decide if I love that as sort of a consistency or hate it because I feel like I'm going to jump into things and the environment is designed a particular way and then it isn't.
Yeah, I think I've collected 7 out of 5, so presumably I've got more than enough now.
That mean you fly?
Okay, so that's our 2 levels. All right. Okay, well, let's go through the mark scheme. So presentation. It's rather nice, isn't it? The animations are working. It's all consistent. The only inconsistency is that bar at the top, which is a bit ugly. That UI at the top.
Yeah, the bar at the top.
And it looks like default font as well, which is like, very little effort to try and find a font that's not hideous. So that's slightly. It's not problematic. It's a bit of a shame given the rest of it's quite so nice.
Yeah, it's sort of because that's the only bit that makes it sort of incoherent because they found the set where everything matches, but then the UI isn't necessarily fully integrated into that. And then also in terms of information design, that thing that we've mentioned where we think parts of the background are going to be colliders and then aren't, is not the smoothest information design in the world.
I don't think there's any sound effects. There's music.
Yeah, when you collect energy, it would be nice if it gave you a little like reward sound, or if you died.
Definitely needs a nice reward sound when you collect good stuff. So that's a bit of a shame actually, because I think otherwise the graphics. So I think the graphics is it wasn't for the UI bits, the graphics would be up at the kind of excellent level. But I think the UI lets the graphics down a bit. The lack of sound effects lets the sound down a bit, and the kind of non-clarity over foreground and background lets the information design a bit. So what would a satisfactory be?
A satisfactory for that would be workable, effective, but there are some inconsistencies. Yeah, I think that is where we are. It is like everything does make sense. You can absolutely navigate it as a game and you sort of understand what's going on. But
Yeah.
is it all as, like startlingly gorgeous as it could be? No, not quite, not quite.
That takes us on to meaningful play.
Mm.
It's definitely engaging.
Hmm.
You can definitely play it. I always think it's funny that that's not to be underestimated, right? Actually, having a game
Mm.
which is engaging is
Yeah,
quite hard to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So yeah, so they've done that. Um, so it's a bit limited on the mechanics in that I've got
Yeah,
it's a very straightforward platformer.
yeah, left, right,
Um,
jump.
pick up blue orbs, left right jump, avoid the enemies.
Mm.
So I think it's lacking a little bit in depth, which makes it kind of less engaging. We've
Hmm.
mentioned the slightly sticky controls.
Mm.
Um, I think those are the things that stop it being at the next level up, the sort of the fun
Mm.
level.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so what would satisfying be? So
Satisfactory would be
yeah,
it's playable. So there are fewer mechanics, usable controls, but may have some minor bugs. And I don't know, argument could be made for satisfactory or good in that way because it is engaging, as you say.
yeah, I think it is
And there are still
engaging.
some minor bugs. Yeah.
So
So we
maybe
can put
half,
that into the good area.
yeah, or do you think maybe halfway between the two to reflect the
Yeah.
problems we've
I
got?
was
But
gonna say maybe straight up halfway between the two.
'cause it's got some really nice bits, but just a couple of those problems. I guess that takes us onto the next bit.
So that takes us to level design, goals, risks, and rewards. Um, yeah.
There was one there. That's definitely a risk getting that one. So they've kind of integrated that by saying you don't have to collect all the gems,
Mm,
which means you choose which gems to get. So they've got a kind of they've almost got a bit of a get out of jail card free for risks and rewards.
hmm
The problem is that it's quite straightforward.
mm,
There's no reason why I wouldn't just go for all the easiest gems.
yeah. Like there's not really a reward for going for the more difficult ones, since you only have to get since you don't have to collect all of them.
So if
So,
so again, maybe I could get some bonus points, or maybe when I complete the level, it records how many I got, and that would give
hmm
me some incentive to get the harder ones. But again,
hmm
yeah. So I think they've got some basic goals, risks, and rewards. I think, but yeah, there's the risks are definitely slightly different,
mm,
although not radically different.
mm.
But the rewards are a bit unclear. I think.
Um, yeah.
What would a satisfactory be for goals, risks, and rewards?
Satisfactory for that would be a coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards. We do have, I think we would definitely would say we have a limited set of goals, risks, and rewards, which would put us into the pass category. Um, yeah.
I'm messing around. I've got 8 out of 5 gems. Good exit, presumably. Okay, so what's next?
So the next thing is pacing. Do we feel like tension rises over time?
To a certain extent, because of because of the levels. This is
Mm.
definitely a more complex level. It's not that harder. Again, because of the way that you can.
When you die on a level, does it reset your energy collection score? So for me, that sort of does limit the tension somewhat
Yeah,
because there's not really any what's the word, penalty for dying beyond it setting you back
yeah.
to the beginning, which is annoying. But the fact that
There is.
you're on your way to a higher level trying to get the more
Yeah.
difficult things and then you're thrown back
Okay.
is some tension. But
So
if it were and then you lose a lot, then it would
there is
be.
a score actually. So I'd missed
Mm.
this. So there is a score. So if I die, I lose 50.
Ah, okay, okay.
So that does. So we were just saying, it'd be good if they had sort of things you had to collect or something. And in effect, they do, but it's just hidden behind the score. So I think it would
Mm.
have been more effective, I think, to have made that a bit more explicit rather than just based off the number of times you died. So, maybe you could have a badge for perfect run or something.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a badge for you collected everything. So, maybe you get 1 star for complete the level, another star if you never die, another star if you collect everything, Something like that. It becomes a more coherent set of things. Whereas by hiding it in the score, it becomes a little bit more ambiguous as to what's going on.
Yeah. So would we say the tension somewhat rises over time, clearly rises over time, or rises over time in a coherent pattern?
I don't think it rises in a coherent pattern. It arguably somewhat rises over time. With only 2 levels. I don't mind only having 2 levels. They're only creating a prototype game, but within the level itself, there's no sort of rising tension. It's not like, because none of these are. Some of them are more difficult to get than others, I suppose. Like that one at the top.
Yeah, like that's to me that's where the tension is the trying to get the difficult ones. Is that there is some I would put into the somewhat category for that, because it is a challenge getting up to those high bits in platformer style to get the nice energy score. I think that's fair.
Let's go with that.
Cool. Great. So that would be a pass. Right, tutorial.
The tutorial, so I sort of forgot what it was, but that was right at the beginning, right? We had the...
Yeah.
So if I actually, I can't restart. I think I have to actually finish the level.
So there were sort of only sort of 2 bits of text. So that was use your A and D to move around, and then use space to jump, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then it was collect the energy, and then that kind of directed you to the right to go and get the energy ball next to the console.
And they had
and then a bit more
there.
about what you needed. Yeah.
So there's a little
exactly.
bit. So I think they've done a little bit of what we asked for.
Like there is some in the level, because there were the spikes, and then there's nothing to say don't run into the bats or the skeletons. It's very much a kind of learn for yourself that they will throw you back, or you'll die and have to go back again, which I think is counts as integrating the tutorial into the design.
I think one of the problems they have, and you do sometimes see this, is they've got a very straightforward and simple set of mechanics. And when that happens, it's really hard to demonstrate that you are teaching the game in a progressive way, right? Because there's just not very much to teach. So yes, while they have done some good things, it feels very limited. But I think that's because there's not much to actually cover. So what would a satisfactory be?
A gradual explanation of gameplay and controls, somewhat aligned with play.
The problem is there's not really a gradual explanation. It's all
it's
first 10 seconds maybe. So what would be? So that was a satisfactory, wasn't it? So what would a pass be?
Pass would be gradual explanation of gameplay and controls revealed as you play. So it definitely is revealed as you play, because it's as you go.
Yeah.
And it is
so it's only in the first 10 seconds, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just not very aligned with it. Okay, so maybe it's
it's not like a page at the front where you get a wall of text and then have to go. So it is while you play, I think. Okay, onto the core dynamics. Let me just bring this up. Underground Odessey. Okay, collection is the fundamental dynamic that drives the player to engage with our game. Each unit of energy not only contributes to the player's score for the level, but is also essential to progress to the next level. Collection of energy is rewarded with a score based on how much they collect, and penaltied by how many times they die during the level.
Yep.
We chose collection as our core dynamic as it adds a clear, motivating goal for the player to achieve, while enhancing the platformer experience with a sense of progression and achievement.
So I think that's fair enough. It kind of my main thing is definitely collecting. It has a spatial reasoner element to it, but that's in order to collect stuff, right?
That's okay. I think that's a fair argument.
So I think it's fine. I think it's a little bit limited in that there's not a lot going on that otherwise that pulls in that direction.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am with that, because I think although collection is, the stated goal, you don't have to collect everything, and you don't really get, and beyond score, you don't get oh, you've collected all of the right kind of energy or different kinds of energy
Yeah.
or stars or speed or anything like that. So it feels like the spatial reasoning is there to support that, but it almost feels like more of the driver because you're trying to negotiate your way around.
Yeah.
But their argument is coherent there.
Yeah. So what would be like a satisfactory for
A
this?
satisfactory for core dynamic would be a clear core dynamic that is partially supported by the primary mechanics. And I think they definitely have delivered at least that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's probably where they are.
Okay.
Does that take us on to
that brings us on to feedback, yes. Let me just bring that up. Feedback and response. We were given some crucial and enlightening feedback regarding our game. They suggested that we make our difficulty scale more gradual and also to add another level after the tutorial. We tackle both these issues at once by removing the more difficult elements from the tutorial and adding to the second level of the game. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think that's worked.
Yeah, absolutely. They also suggested that we make the energy bar more obvious on the screen to give it more contrast to the background. Apparently it previously had a dark background along with our game being dark. Okay, yep, so it's more visible. So that's improved some of the UI a bit. Good. The risk level was also criticised that there was no real punishment for dying. This is now reflected in the score being penaltied. Cool. So that is, kind of what we've said. I think they've had some success there.
Yeah, I think we said, there are probably better mechanisms for doing it, but it does work, definitely.
Yeah. And finally, it was suggested that we tweak our enemy hitboxes as they felt unforgiving. We fixed this by making our colliders slightly smaller than the general shape so the player could get close to the enemies without instantly dying. Yeah, good call.
We were complaining about it for the player, but they'd already fixed it for the enemies, so yeah, that's worked. So actually, that's quite a nice set of things there, really. I mean, I think
they've integrated some stuff there.
Putting a second, so one of the things that happens is when you build a game, you're kind of doing two different things, right? You're building an engine, and then you're building the levels for the game itself, and a lot of the work is the engine. So having gone through and built all of the complexity, it's a real shame to then not spend the extra few hours to put together an extra level, and also it gives you much more space for demonstrating things like pacing. So yeah, that's definitely a good call.
Yeah, and I think they have as you say, like all the engine is there because they've all the little sprites move in different ways.
Yeah.
So having a bit more depth to actually play in was a good call.
Absolutely. So what would be a good for?
A good for that would be feedback has been addressed and the changes have been successful. And then for excellent, it would be feedback has been interpreted and addressed and the changes have been successful. There has been some limit in how successful it's been because of the dying thing. But on the other hand, they have interpreted some things in terms of adding depth and changing the tutorial, which has been successful.
I think maybe halfway between good and excellent, because they've done some interpretation and mostly it's worked, right? And even in the places where it hasn't worked, even the places where they could have done better, it sort of partially worked. It's not like it's failed totally. So yeah, I think maybe halfway between the two.
Okie dokie.
So yeah,
Great.
This is a nice little puzzle game, really. I kind of it suffers a little bit from. Could do with a few more mechanics. It could do with a little bit more risk rewards and pacing, but I think a lot of it stems from the mechanics because you haven't got very much to demonstrate. Very difficult to stretch them out, very difficult to demonstrate them gradually, very difficult to use them to generate pacing. So yeah, it feels to me like it has a lot of potential, but yeah. Okay, I think that's our last game. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again in our next video.